She said, I'll have the female rage with a side of female rage, please. These girlies, they'd love Bumble. Girly things, millennial problems, am I right? I don't know. Funny? Question mark? You can call me mother. I've had it with patriarchy, darling. I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs. Okay? Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Ray, What Ray Reads, follow me on Instagram. Thanks for clicking on this video and listening to my opinions on sad girl lit, unhinged characters, female rage. That's where we're going today. They're the steps we're heading down.
Stunning.
Today's video, as you know, if you've clicked on it, you read the title, you've seen the thumbnail. I thought I'd share a selection of books that I've pulled from my shelves and I've read and liked about weird women, unhinged women. Some may call it sad girl lit, but either way, these are stories about complex women and the narrative is centred on them, which we love. If you're new to the channel, I love literary fiction and contemporary stories, specifically stories written by and about women. So I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs. Okay, so here's a reading list of 12 books that I'm calling Unhinged Women, a Spectrum. Let's get into the video. So the first book on the reading list is Vladimir by Julia May Jonas, and I read this, was it last year? I think it was last year, or was it the year before? Either way, this one's given dark academia, but make it unhinged. This is a sharp, contemporary, relevant story set at a liberal arts college in America, and it follows a female narrator and professor whose husband is under suspicion and investigation for inappropriate behaviour with his students, female students.
Oh Lord. Again.
And we follow her as she tries to understand her complex feelings about the whole situation, and more particularly towards her partner, particularly since they have a bit of a don't ask, don't tell policy in the marriage.
Well, there it is.
And even more so when a new, young, charismatic professor and author comes to the school and she becomes a bit infatuated and obsessed with him.
I'm so excited because I love this.
So she has to quickly grapple with her understanding of the situation regarding her husband and how she feels towards that, and questioning things and behaviours, whilst also having similar feelings and obsessions herself. So this story really captures desire, obsession, and how power is yielded by and against people, particularly women.
She's got a point.
And it's a very relevant topic in a post-Me Too time. So there's your first one. Next we have Eileen by Atessa Moshfegh, my favourite Atessa Moshfegh, and she said, okay ladies, now let's get in formation for our rock girl summer. I'm an Atessa Moshfegh stan, I'm a defender, and I'll literally read anything she puts out. So this story's set in New England in the 1960s, I think. I'm sure it's the 60s. And it's set during Christmas time, which really lends it to sort of the cold, isolated environment we're in. And we follow Eileen, who's a young woman who feels trapped by her dull life, her surroundings, a dead-end job where she's working at a boys' prison, and she feels like she has a lot of pent-up desires and rage that isn't really met or released, and she dreams to escape this, you know, dull existence. Instead, she's looking after her alcoholic father, grieving the loss of a mother, and working at a job she can't stand. And one day a new counsellor arrives at the prison, and it's a attractive, sophisticated woman named Rebecca. And she becomes consumed with like an obsession and admiration for her, and you're like, is it attraction? And when Rebecca takes Eileen under her wing and sort of brings her out of a shell a bit, things get messy and the story takes a sharp, dark turn in the last quarter of the book. And as I said, this is probably my favourite Atessa Moshfegh. It's very sad girl, but it's also got thrilling elements, and it's very character driven, which I'm there for. And as I said, I'll be honest, I support Eileen's rights and I support Eileen's wrongs. Don't come for me. Next, we have a quirky little book called Diary of a Void by Emi Yagai. I've had this on a few reading lists. Don't know why I just looked out the window. But this is like a quirky little story, Japanese fiction. And she said, I've had it with patriarchy, darling. And this one's set in Japan. Obviously, it's Japanese fiction. And we follow Mrs. Shibata, who becomes frustrated in her job. It's a new job since she left her old job due to sexual harassment.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But in this new job, she's the only female in the office. And so she's expected by her male colleagues to take on menial tasks like clearing up the dishes, hosting other colleagues. It's all left to her. It's expected of her. And one day, she's like,
not my problem.
I'm not doing it no more. That's it. And she announces that she can't carry out the task because the smell of what they're making her do is nauseating since she's with child. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sit down, take a break, have a Kit Kat. So this story, it's very like weird and makes you question, you know, gendered workplace dynamics. And it's a great look at the dynamics in, you know, society and workplaces still to this day, and the expectations that are put on women a lot in these workplace environments and how that can become very frustrating. It's funny, it's quirky, and it's just a very odd story, but it's got an impactful way of telling the story and acknowledging what we have to deal with in a patriarchal society. So I'm here for it. The next book is Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder, and it's been adapted, and recently the poster was released with Amy Adams in. I can't wait for it. Hope it's good. Female director and great actress. So yeah, Night Bitch. She said, you can call me mother. This book's feral. Let's just get that out the way. It takes Unhinged to a whole new level, so we have to rise up to the Unhinged level, and it looks at the challenges of new motherhood, how motherhood changes a person, and how women are expected to leave the careers. In this case, it's a creative art career that she has to put to the sidelines in service of raising the child. You know, a lot of it's unsaid, but it is expected for the woman to raise the child, to stay home.
Oh, Jesus. Gross.
Obviously not always, but you know, a lot of the time it is.
I'm not finished.
The father can come and go as he pleases. A lot of the time he doesn't leave work. So it's like an intense view, like an animalistic exploration of giving birth, becoming a mother, how your body basically has these animalistic ways of birthing a child, growing a child, rearing a child, and how that experience can exhaust a person and make them become like unhinged, truly. As I said, this is literally female rage at its finest. And although it is unhinged and feral, it made me stop when I was reading it, and I was like, God, women really are that bitch, aren't they? They rarely go through it, but they are that bitch.
That's mother.
And one thing I will say, bit of a trigger warning, there is like a bit of animal cruelty in this book that, you know, she didn't care for. I'm a vegetarian. But yeah, as someone who does the dogdie.com before I watch films that I know have pets in, I wasn't here for that, but you've been warned. Next, we have Milk Fed by Melissa Broder, and she said, I'm just a girl standing in front of another girl asking her for frozen yogurt, but also lesbian rights. So in this story, we follow Rachel, not me, who's highly strung, deeply unsatisfied, and finds the illusion of control through restricting what she eats and being very strict with her exercise and food and things like that. She grew up with an overbearing mother, so she finds control in this disordered eating, and as she's obsessing about this calorie restriction and controlling her life, she frequents this frozen yogurt shop, or if you're American, yogurt shop, where she has her one main treat, which is the frozen yogurt, and she meets an Orthodox Jewish woman named Miriam, and Miriam's like very maternal in a sense, offers her like comfort and wants to feed her desires, wink wink. This is a great queer story and a character exploration about lust, desire, and the human appetite for love and connection. It's also witty and quite dry, and it's a great first book to get into Melissa Broder's work. I think she's written 4 books. I've read 2, but this is a great one to get into to see if you like her style of writing. Next we've got Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, and this one said, Alexa, play He Had It Coming by the cast of Chicago, but make it Geordie. So yeah, Geordie, set in Newcastle. We follow Irina, who's a photographer, and she takes explicit photos of average looking men she meets and scouts on the streets of Newcastle.
Okay, work.
And she's working a bar job that she hates, and one incident she has leads her to taking a sabbatical, and during this time she gets offered a showcase spot at a prestigious London art gallery. She's hedonistic, self-destructive, and regularly goes out partying, drinking, taking drugs, and she's obsessed with pushing boundaries and having power and switching the power dynamics, and oftentimes, definitely, she takes it too far. And this story is about power, about gendered power and shifting the gendered power dynamics, seeking control. It's dark at times, it's very shocking, but it's also like funny, question mark. It's also got like some body horror elements, just so you know. And as a northerner, I lived for the Geordie representation, the northern humour. Like when she was talking about cultural stuff, about the way they go out partying and drinking and stuff, their interactions are very like northern, and I was living. But yeah, Eliza Clark is one of my new favourite authors, and I'm excited to see what she puts out next. Next we have Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. Hope I've pronounced the name right. And she said, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Oh, and also I hate my mother-in-law. This one's considered a domestic horror and definitely has horror, body horror elements. We follow Abby, who has just moved in with her partner and his mother, who's deeply unhappy and depressed, and she literally can't stand Abby. Abby's like really desperate for a maternal figure. She wants to connect and look after someone, but also be looked after, and she tries to connect with her mother-in-law, but her mother-in-law's just having none of it.
Oh, really?
So Abby finds a connection with one of her patients where she works at a care home, and her life's turned upside down when her mother-in-law takes her own life, leading her to become more isolated and lonely as her partner falls into a deep depression. And then the one person who she finds connection with at a workplace, her daughter, is threatening to remove her and move her to a different, cheaper care home. And she's really going through it. She's facing like severe loneliness, lack of connection, and she just wants to make someone happy. Things get weird, they get dark, they get gruesome. Cannibalism. You're just in for a wild ride and a treat, and you find yourself, or at least I did, I'm like, Abby's got a point when she's doing all these horrible things. Next we've got Luster by Raven Lalani, and she said, this hot girl summer is getting a bit weird. This is a wonderful contemporary novel and character study of a millennial woman trying to make sense of her life and navigate it whilst also struggling with daily things. She's working in a dead-end job where she's like the only black person there. She's struggling to connect with people. She's lonely. She's financially insecure. Millennial problems, am I right? Bad hookups that leave her feeling meh and not having the time, energy or money to pursue what she's passionate about. Somehow she ends up in a relationship with an older man who has a family and lives in the suburbs. Sorry if you can hear that, Milo's going out the room. He's got a child and a wife. And he tells her that him and his wife have got an understanding, but you're like, really? So she finds herself in a weird position that just makes her life even more strange and unusual and leaves her navigating even more uncertain terrain. So this book's like a great modern exploration of a millennial woman. It's funny and complex, and at times it's touching as well. So next we've got Bunny by Mona Awad, and she said, oh, you know, just girly things. I mean, culty things. I mean, girly things. This is another one that's set in a university in America. So this story follows Samantha, who is an outsider, not like other girls, at a small MFA program in a university in America. And she's lonely and she doesn't fit in with the girls on the course. They're very like cliquey and they dress in like a certain way and they call each other Bunny. And she's like, that's weird. And then one day they invite her to one of the little parties they have, and she gets drawn deeper into like the weirdness and their little culty rituals that are like witchy and magical realism, and it's all a bit trippy and weird. And you're at times when the things are happening in the book, you're like, did that really happen, or are they just like off the heads on something? But it's such an odd book that focuses on weird women and weird women, female dynamics, you know, female friendship dynamics that are very like particular. And you know, when you've been friends with a group of women, there's lots of like little politics going on in between, and you know what I mean, and the lengths that people will go to have power and control and a sense of control over someone else. It's just a wild ride. These girlies, they'd love Bumble. The woman reaches out first. Be having the time of their lives on that. Next, we've got a book that unfortunately I can't find. I think I might have loaned it out, and that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. In the words of Marie Kondo, I love mess. This one's set in Nigeria, and we follow Korede, I think that's how you pronounce it, who one night receives a strange phone call from a sister, her baby sister shall I say. And it's not the first time she's received this strange type of phone call, and she's asking for her sister's help. And since it's not the first time, she already knows what she needs to bring: bleach, rubber gloves, and the ability to clean up her sister's mess. And it's this one phone call after having others that makes her question, like, what is exactly going on with her sister? It's becoming a reoccurring issue, and she's starting to get a bit freaked out by it. She's like, is my sister a serial killer? Her boyfriends keep disappearing.
That's weird.
Oh yeah, and I help her clean it up. But as the old saying goes, blood's thicker than water and bleach. So she finds herself conflicted throughout the story of covering for her sister, continuing to support her sister's bad behaviour, or, you know, ultimately having to turn on her. She's like, you know, I do love mess and I'm good at cleaning it, but might have to end here, hon. Next we've got Pretend I'm Dead by Jem Began, and I read Big Swiss and I just loved Jem Began's style of writing and sharp, witty, funny observations that I was like, I need to read her other books. I know she got 2 others, so I thrifted the other 2 and they fed me. And she said, I'm a cleaning lady, but my life's a mess. So we follow Mona. She's 24. She's working a wage-to-wage job, cleaning other people's houses, nosing in them, exploring other people's lives and messes while her own life's, you know, feeling purposeless. And she also works at a needle exchange where she meets this man who she kind of becomes a bit infatuated with, that she calls Mr. Disgusting. I'd be running the other way. And you get a sense that Mona's just, you know, she's trying to make her life seem more interesting, going after these sort of people that aren't good for her and involving herself in a crowd of people that have a lot of issues. And when something happens with Mr. Disgusting, she ends up running to New Mexico to start over, and she starts cleaning other people's houses there, and she meets quirky, odd characters, and she explores their lives through cleaning the houses. And all the while she has things, you know, unresolved in her own life, things that happened in her childhood that have left her the way she is, and she's exploring them whilst also being a bit of a weirdo.
I have to laugh.
So this is a good story and a good author if you're wanting to check out more interesting female voices that are, you know, odd, quirky, sometimes bad, sometimes good, mostly bad. But one thing I really like about it, this is the first, and there's another book that deals with the same character called Vacuum in the Dark, and it centres on a working class character, which I like. It's an exploration of someone who's working just, you know, a regular job. They're not making much money, they're working paycheck to paycheck, but they're still an interesting, engaging character, and, you know, you're exploring their lives and the inner complexities. And I find, you know, I read a lot of contemporary fiction and stories written by women, and a lot of them, I just have to say that, you know, they explore a lot of middle class women, and as someone who is working class, I do find it refreshing to hear those stories and have those explorations of the complex characters. We need more of that, more working class stories, more weird working class women. Sign me up. The last book in the reading list is Animal by Lisa Tadeo, and this is literally female rage personified. She said, I'll have the female rage with a side of female rage, please. And I'm just going to start off with a quote from the book. Honestly, sometimes I think it's the only recourse. Killing men in times like these. Girl, tell me more. So in this book we follow Joan, who is living in New York, and she's just like got a simmering sense of rage about like how she's been wronged by a lot of men in her life. She's had a lot of problematic and unpleasant experiences with them, and she's like, you know, this female rage, it's just simmering. And she has a particularly horrible interaction with a man, which leads her to flee from New York and move to Los Angeles, where she is in search of a woman that she knows or wants to know more about, that she becomes a bit obsessed with and stalks a little bit.
I have eyes everywhere, bitch.
Because she has questions about her life that she wants answered. LA sets for like a hazy, hot, sort of swelterant story setting, especially when she's, you know, enraged. It really adds to it. It's like it's getting hot in here, as Nelly said. It's just completely captivating and at times unnerving, but you'll keep turning the page, and it's a pure reflection of female rage and anger that just needs to be let out. It's been building and building over time. Joan said, off with his head. So yeah, that was the female rage, sad girl, unhinged female reading list. My favourite type of story. Don't say I don't give you the goods. Anyway, that was the video. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and comment below what your favourite sad girl lit, unhinged female rage books are below. And thanks for watching this video if you made it this far. I appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.